This morning it's time for another Real Estate Spotlight. Joining us now is Stephanie Jones, from Select Realty. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning.
So how do you even find a realtor when you're first looking for a house?
Well, it often comes down to who do you know. For a lot of people, they know a couple realtors and they end up just calling one. What I always recommend is that whether you know agents or not, interview 3 agents. You're going to be hiring someone to do a job for you, and so you need to take some control and find an agent that you work well with to become their client.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess how do we know who an agent works for? Do they work for the people looking for their house? Do they look for the people selling the house?
Well, a lot of times a buyer will just call the name on the sign, and what happens with that is that agent is working for the seller. Sellers will hire someone to sell their house, and that's the person whose name is on the sign in front of the house. That is their client. When they're working for the seller, they owe all their fiduciary responsibility to the seller, meaning anything that buyer tells them, they have to tell the seller. What's in the best interest of a buyer is to hire a buyer's agent and have them work for the client. That way they can be honest, the buyer's agent can give them comparables, can really help guide them through the whole entire process.
Yeah, and I guess how do realtors from different companies work together through that process?
Well, it's been a really, really old system, but what happens is sellers pay a commission, and they pay that commission to their agent, who is the listing agent. And then from there, the listing agent shares that commission with the buyer's agent. The reason the listing agent is the one who shares the commission is because sellers can deduct those closing costs. So it's always been sellers paying, and they compensate buyer's agents. So a buyer's agent, hiring a buyer's agent is one of the few times you can ever hire someone to work for you on your behalf, and you're not writing them a check.
Wow, okay, so buyer's agents are very different then from realtors.
Nope, buyer's agents are realtors. A listing agent works for the seller, and a buyer's agent works for the buyer.
Wow, and so are there roles different between like houses in the city and houses in the township, or is it all kind of the same no matter where you go?
It's all kind of the same. Some agents will specialize in different types of properties or different areas. So that's one of the reasons it's good to interview your agent before you hire them and make sure that they're good at the area you're planning to either look or list your home.
And when you go to hire that agent, what should you be looking for?
Well, you should be looking for an agent who will explain the whole process through you. You will get to be very, very close with your agent for that short period of time that your home is either listed or sold. And in order to create that client relationship, it requires a contract. For listing a house, you have the listing contract, and for becoming a buyer's agent, you have a buyer's contract. And state law says that contract should be executed prior to the exchange of any confidential information. An example of confidential information could be how high you're qualified to go. So I think there's a lot of agents nationwide that aren't doing buyer agency contracts early enough, but that's what creates the client relationship.